Welcome, you guys. So this is a video that I've been excited to make for a while. I want to tell you what the most reliable Ford car, truck, and SUV is. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I am a ex-Ford tech. I was a tech for over 10 years. I like to use my experience with videos here to try to help you guys out and save money. And this is just me riding a motorcycle. I figured it'd be more entertaining than watching a slideshow. Alright guys, so by far the most reliable Ford car is the 2012 through 2018 Ford Focus with the 5-speed manual transmission and the 2-liter Duratec naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. Oh my goodness, you guys, if you want to get yourself a tank that gets 40 miles per gallon, then don't look any further there. Some of you guys may be thinking, oh my goodness, did he just say a 2012 through 2018 Ford Focus? Don't those have all those transmission problems? Okay, yeah, with the automatic dual clutch transmission, power shift. You can actually make those pretty reliable, except that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the 5-speed manual version. Like I said, I've been a Ford tech for over 10 years, and I've never personally seen a 2-liter Duratec fail. And obviously the MTX75 5-speed manual transmission that's in these cars are very reliable. I had that transmission in one of my other cars that I've had before, and I'd had 180,000 miles on the car, and all the synchronizers still felt brand new. The clutch felt fine. So you're talking one of Ford's best engines and one of their best transmissions put together in a simple little car. When it comes to simplicity, that's when you get a lot fewer failure points. The only thing you may expect to have to fix on that would be the coolant bottle. They are known to develop a crack and develop a slow leak. You might have to replace the canister purge valve, which is cheap and simple to replace. I have a video on that. The upper engine mount, very easy to replace. It just might cause a vibration after a number of years. And when you get a lot of miles on it, you may have to do a clutch job. That's about it. I mean, like you'd have to do with any car. When it comes to that car, I would also feel completely confident putting it up against I'd feel confident putting it up against a Toyota as far as high mileage reliability goes. I'm not kidding about these cars. I'll put an image up here of one with over 900,000 miles on it. Yeah. And they're easy to work on as well. The spark plugs are all up top, easy to get to. You don't have to pull an intake manifold or anything like you would on a V6. You can get them cheap, and you can get 40 miles per gallon highway out of them. Moving on next, let's talk about the trucks. What's the most reliable Ford truck? Generally, I'm going to stick to the last 15 or 20 years. I'm not going to call out an early 90s truck or something like that. And if you stick around to the end, I will mention some of Ford's worst vehicles to avoid there. Alright, so if I were going to go ahead and get a later model F-150 nowadays, what I would look for would probably be about a 2016 F-150 with a 5-liter V8 and the 6-speed automatic transmission. Now that's not to say that the 3.5 EcoBoost is a bad engine. I've seen a lot of those get hundreds of thousands of miles put on them without failure. It's just that the 5-liter doesn't have turbos, so it's more simple and less things to go wrong. I would avoid any Ford engine in an F-150 after 2016, so 2017 onward. That is a different generation, and they started having a lot of problem with cam phasers. And I would also try to avoid any of the brand new F-150s. I know for sure the 5-liter, I believe the 3.5 as well. Correct myself if I'm wrong there. However, they have a belt driving the oil pump, and that belt is submerged in oil all the time, so it's not going to last forever. And obviously when the oil pump belt fails, the oil pump's not going to be driven anymore, and it's going to destroy the engine. So that's the newer ones, 2022 and newer, I believe. If you are curious about that, let me know, and I'll research that and reply to your comment and pin it. But yeah, if you're looking about a 2014, 15, or 16 model F-150, you should be good to go, and it should last you a very long time. And the 6-speed automatic transmission, while being clunky and quirky every now and then, is a very reliable transmission, very reliable. Just keep the fluid changed, and the only issue you might run into would be the molded lead frame, which is easy to replace. And what the molded lead frame is a piece of plastic that's in the transmission where the valve body is, so you just need to pull the pan and valve body out to get to it. And this piece of plastic houses all the harnessing and sensors inside the transmission. And what happens is typically the output shaft speed sensor that's built into it will develop an issue and cause the transmission to get stuck in high gear. Now they had a recall on that to mitigate the symptoms, because before that, I won't go into too much detail here, but before that, if the PCM saw the output shaft speed sensor signal drop to 0, if you're on the highway, you would drop down to first gear. That was a safety issue. So Ford went in and changed the calibration to where it would be stuck in high gear and let you limp to the dealership and have it fixed. And there was an extended coverage on the lead frame, but that has pretty much run out. It was a 10-year, 150,000 mile coverage. However, most of these trucks are out of that coverage by now. If you're curious about that, the field service action number is 19N as in Nancy 01, 19N01. Anyway, if you get a 3.5 EcoBoost model, the only issue you'd run into potentially down the road with a lot of miles, turbochargers might start to leak, and it's possible you might run into issues with a timing chain stretching or a cam phaser failing, even though it's not the next generation with the widespread issues with cam phasers. Still, just after a couple 100,000 miles, they can still wear out and start knocking on a cold start, but it's not the end of the world. Generally, with cam phaser rattle, the only thing it'll hurt is itself. It's not going to spread metal through the whole engine and destroy anything, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Alright guys, next let's talk about the SUVs, and I do have an honorable mention on this one as well. So if you want to get a SUV, small SUV that you see most people driving around, I would recommend, let's say if I were looking for a SUV like that, I would look for a 2014, either a Ford Edge or Ford Explorer. Get the one with the V6 and a 6-speed automatic transmission. I would get one that's two-wheel drive personally, because the only real widespread issue there was a PTU failure, which is the all-wheel drive unit. It'll keep things more simple. However, if you want to have all-wheel drive, it's not the end of the world. You can go ahead and get it and try to service the fluid in the PTU regularly. Now that V6 that's in these vehicles is one of Ford's best engines. I believe they actually won an award for it back in the day. J.D. Power, I want to say. And those engines are almost as reliable as a Ford Focus 2-liter Duratec engine. They are that good. They do have one fatal flaw, and that's the water pump. I believe in the early 2010s, like about 2013 or so, they started using the updated design water pump, which is less prone to failure. However, it can still happen. And the problem with this water pump is it's driven by the timing chain, so you need to take the timing cover off and pull the timing chains out to get to the water pump. And if it fails bad enough, it can leak coolant into the oil and damage the engine. And if you're going to have that water pump replaced and you're not going to do it yourself, you can expect to spend $3,500 on it. There's a lot of people that pull the engines out of the vehicles to replace the water pump, because some vehicles you just can't get enough access to get the timing cover out. But besides that, that is a very reliable engine. And as far as the 6-speed automatic transmission, the 6F50 it's called, that right there is one of Ford's best transmissions they ever made. The only time I've personally seen any issues out of the 6F50 was a certain year, a certain range of vehicles built in 2016 may have an issue with the direct drum shearing and causing loss of engagement in reverse, 3rd and 5th gear. From my experience, that's exceptionally rare, and it was only a small amount of cars that were affected in 2016 models. If you're looking at a 2016 model, you can ask the dealer to run the VIN number, give them the VIN number, and they can see if that service bulletin applies to that VIN number. The service bulletin for the direct drum shearing in the transmission, and that'll tell you whether or not that particular vehicle is affected by that potential issue there. But other than that, an Explorer and Edge of that powertrain setup, I would just peek under it and see if there's coolant leaking from the water pump, and if there's not, I would feel comfortable to drive it to Alaska and back. I'm on the east coast of the United States, so I would feel confident hopping in it and riding up there. Very reliable SUVs. An honorable mention here would be a Ford Escape with the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder without the turbocharger. The Escapes 2013 to 2016, 2017 have an option to have the naturally aspirated 2.5 liter in it. The other options are 1.6 and 2.0 liter turbocharged engine. The 2.5 liter Duratec is right on up there in reliability with the Ford Focus 2 liter Duratec engine. Very reliable engine. I've seen those Escapes with 300,000 or 400,000 miles on them on AutoTrader and Facebook several times. Of course, the weak point here would be the 6F35 transmission. But like I've said many times, if you keep the fluid changed in that transmission religiously, every 20 or 30,000 miles, drain and fill it 3 times, because the fluid breaks down really fast in there, clogs the filter, causes the pump to starve, slips the transmission, and wears everything out really quickly. However, if you keep that transmission fluid sparkling clean in that transmission, it should last you a long time. And that, I believe, really is the trick there on a 6F35. 6-speed transmission in the escapes. You just over-maintain that transmission, and it'll be good to you. It'll be good. If you neglect it and you never change the fluid in it, it's not going to treat you well. You will eventually need a transmission replacement if you don't ever change the fluid, and that's $5,000 to $8,000 right there. But anyway, if you take care of it and you get yourself a 2.5 liter Escape, you've got yourself one good car right there, and you don't have to worry about the water pump having issues like you would on the V6, because it's much more simple and easy to replace. All right, quick little bonus here for a van. If you're looking to get a van, I would get a early 2010s, 2010 to 2014, somewhere in there, Econoline E150 or E250 with a 2-valve engine, not the 3-valve, and the 4R70W transmission. That would be a very, very reliable light to medium duty cargo van right there. Now, if you want a Transit, I would get a mid-2010s, Transit with the naturally aspirated V6 and the 6R80 6-speed automatic transmission. Another very reliable setup. It's actually the same engine that's in the Edges and Explorers, except since it's not mounted horizontally like in the Explorers and Edges, and it's mounted conventionally like a rear-wheel drive vehicle would be, it's going to have a different water pump in it. It's going to have a easy-to-access external water pump that's not driven by the timing chain. The reason they use the timing chain driven water pump on the Edges and Explorers is because of access and clearance issues. With the frame rail and the water pump pulley on the engine. All right, guys, so the least reliable Fords here. If I were to avoid any certain Ford car, I would say it's a two-way tie between a Ford Focus with a 1-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine and a Ford Fusion with a 1.5-liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine. I want to say the 1.5 did come in the Fusion. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure I've seen that. The 1.5-liter EcoBoost is one of Ford's worst performing engines as far as reliability goes. A lot of issues with the blocks warping and causing coolant consumption, if I can talk. And the 1-liter 3-cylinder in that Focus I'm talking about there, don't get me started. The timing belt and oil pump belt are submerged in oil and have proven to wear out exceptionally quick and cause catastrophic engine failure. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty cool technology put into that 1-liter 3-cylinder engine. It's a little 1,000cc engine that puts out over 100 horsepower. It's pretty nifty. However, it's got its issues. It's also very difficult to work on in replacing the belts. You need a lot of special tools and a lot of patience. You need to take a lot of things apart to access them. All right, SUV time. I would avoid the Ford Escape with the 1.5-liter 4-cylinder. Once again, it's one of their least reliable engines. However, they do have a redesigned short block, which has proven to fix that issue. However, it's a hassle you'd have to go through if it hasn't been done already. Eventually, most likely you're going to have a failure there if you have the original short block. And as far as the trucks go, I would avoid a 2017 to early 2020s F-150 EcoBoost V6 because there's been a lot of issues widespread with cam phaser failure. And some of the newer ones actually use a rubber belt submerged in oil to drive the oil pump. So it's not a very good design there, in my opinion. Another F-150 that I would avoid is the mid to late 2000s 543 valve. Lots of issues out of that one. When the engine starts to wear and lose even a little bit of oil pressure, it'll starve the cam phasers and cause them to fail, which can in turn lead to camshaft damage, cylinder head damage, and require major engine repairs. Now, there are some fixes for that. Is it really worth the hassle? There's people that put the high flow oil pumps in them, and that does extend the life of them as well. If you want to do more research on that and the 543 valve in general, I recommend Ford Tech Make You Loco. He's very experienced with that. He's a YouTuber. Anyway, guys, I sure hope you got something from this. I hope it helps you out. I hope that you know which vehicles to avoid and which ones to get. Ford really does have a lot of good gems out there. You just got to know what you're looking for. There's some really good cars out there and some really good bad Ford cars out there. Anyway, if you got any questions, feel free to post below. I've also got a Facebook and Discord group. We're happy to answer your questions there as well. Hope you guys have a great day. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it.